Awesome. Hello and welcome to Parenting Differently, where we leave behind that old way of parenting and allow the gift of motherhood to raise us. Different to perhaps how we were raised, maybe different to how society is telling us we should be raising our children, maybe even different to how we thought we were going to raise our kids, just different. I'm your host, Anya Simmons. I'm a mum of two, a yoga teacher, a parenting coach. And I started my whole journey working with children as a nanny. And so as a trained British nanny, I like to say, NNEB, give myself a bit of official some letters. And my partner in crime is with me today. So I'm super excited, Miss Cinzia. And we did a nanny training together. I looked it up. I think it's over 30 years ago. That's almost like, yeah. I was like, what? No, hang on. Let me do my dates. That can't be. We look just the same, of course. So how beautiful. And so I'm super excited to have Cinzia here, and we're going to dive right in. I'm going to talk a little bit today, a little more about how our parenting differently happened when we thought we were ready for it as a nanny going in. So, Cinzia, let's start with my first question. Who are you and who are you mothering?
Hello. Right, so yes, I'm Cinzia, and I am mothering Leo, my son. Leo's 13 already. Same thing again. How did that happen? And yeah, I mother Leo mainly, but I kind of think that I mother other people and other beings as well. I've got a little doggy to my side. I mother him sometimes. Probably mother my husband sometimes, although I don't know if he wants that or not. And I also work as a foster carer sometimes. So I sometimes mother other children and young people.
Wow. 13. That's just shocked me in myself.
I know.
Goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay. So what do you think? I mean, you are the mother, really, if that's you bring in, foster kids are mothering and yeah, all of that. That's amazing. So what do you think for yourself has been the toughest part of being a mum?
So the toughest part for me, I think, I suppose for me, that answer has two parts.
Okay.
Well, probably more than two. I think altogether, it was a lot tougher than I ever anticipated. And I think every mother, every parent is going to say that, surely. We did our nursery nurse training together. We had a sort of framework of what we thought should happen, would happen, and if it didn't, we would magically make it happen because we were British nannies and we knew what we were doing, and we raised other people's children, and it surely is not that hard. And then it happens to you. Now that's different. Literally from the word go, my pregnancy, I had an IVF pregnancy, so even that very start was different. And I had quite an easy pregnancy. I had a very difficult birth. My son was frank breech, so bottom first, but with legs up. And yeah, had an emergency cesarean. He was a big baby. He was 10 pounds 10 and a half. Yeah, so I was quite glad for the cesarean. And so kind of from the word go, you have all these plans and it's going to be like this, and I had my birth plan. I'm sure midwives must laugh and laugh when they see birth plans.
I agree. They must be like, yeah, okay, we know you made a plan. But
yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Mum, and we'll take it. Anyway, so obviously nothing happened like that. So beautiful big baby. I fed him myself. That was difficult. He was big. He was so hungry. He was feeding all the time. He fed every 2 hours, round the clock. I couldn't stop him feeding then because we were into it, and he fed until far too late. I know it's never too late, but really it was, because he's a big boy. So I think really, yeah, that was probably the first part when I thought, hey, forget all that, forget everything we've learned. This is different. It's different. And then when Leo was 2, he stopped developing in the way that the professionals felt he should be developing, and we weren't sure what was happening.
Right.
And we went, saw various professionals, and ultimately Leo was diagnosed as being on the autistic spectrum. He
Okay.
had ASD. So that was another kind of thing that I thought, hang on a minute, you know, that wasn't in the plans. Where did this come from? So yeah, everything was different, I suppose, from the word go for us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was hard then as a mum, do you think, in terms of just going with it? Or was it like you had to grieve each stage, like from the birth, from the, you know, it being so different? Was there, like, how do you handle that as a mum with when they're not following the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when you're in it,
Mm,
you just live it, because you don't know what's coming next, and you're just kind of riding the waves and thinking, I've just got to get through this, I've just got to get through it. Now being on the outside, or being on the other side, the biggest piece of advice I could give to somebody if they are going through that is just be kind to yourself. Just be kind to yourself. Don't try and meet anybody else's expectations. My niece recently had a baby at the beginning of COVID and had a really similar kind of birth, very big baby, had a cesarean in the end, a difficult birth. And my sister, her mum, was able to give her a lot of support, whereas when I had my son, we weren't living close to anybody, so you know, all that kind of relentless breaking of sleep and everything is hard going.
Oh God.
But yeah, just to be kind to yourself. And same with a sort of diagnosis of anything, or even, you know, it doesn't have to be a diagnosis, but something when you think, hang on a minute, that's not textbook, that's not exactly what I was expecting here. Just be kind to yourself, because it brings up so many different emotions and you don't know what's happening. And that's kind of what they always say, don't worry about things that you don't know what the end result's going to be anyway. I know it's easy for me to say that now, but I would really try to get people to hold on to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's so wise. I mean, you know, that needs to be sort of, never mind what buggy you buy, what plan, what kind of this, you know, like that, that's the real thing, right?
Yeah.
You can have the prettiest pram and the prettiest thing, and if you're dying inside because it's not matching up, and, you know, there's a lot, I think there always was. We didn't obviously grow up with social media, so we didn't see so much, but you would still have a neighbor that you thought, my God, they've got it so together. Why haven't I? Or, oh, your child's sleeping through the night. Oh, your child, you know, all this comparison. And you realize take your little person, right? Just what's right for them. Right. And allowing that to just kind of evolve as you move on. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love how you say when you were in it, how you just kind of go with it, and it's only afterwards, right? Because you just kind of go, right, okay, this is the situation. How am I going to function?
Yeah. When we were going through the diagnostic process, my husband had just gone away to work in Antarctica for 5 months, so he couldn't come home anyway. And so I kind of was keeping this from him, because I didn't want him to worry and feel like I felt.
Right. Wow.
Now I would say don't do that, because that was such a weight to carry. That was such a weight to carry. And also then when he was kind of coming home, I had to say to him, so I've got something to tell you, some things have been going on. And I think that kind of stems from, so I always kind of look at me, how I was before children to how I am after.
Can you remember? I can't remember.
Less tired for sure. That was one of the things. Yeah. But I used to be, I think I am still a bit, but I used to take a lot of pride in kind of getting things done and sorting things out and always coping and, you know, making things work out pretty much the way that I felt they should, or the way I wanted to. And in that way, parenting is a great leveler, because you just find out very quickly you can't do that. You can't control those things. You can't. Things happen, things work out, lots of things don't work out. But you know, you still get up the next day, life is still the same, you still have your family. So you have to learn, I suppose it is different ways of coping with things that you just don't know about. And you just have to learn to well, in my case, not to need to have such a tight grip on everything all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That was a huge learning I totally get that. There was a huge learning for me that it doesn't have to all be me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't have to keep it so that everybody, for me, it was everybody being safe and everybody, having all their needs met. Only I can do this. Right.
Yeah.
And then you realize on top of all of that, first, what a burden. And I mean, like you say, like not sharing things, thinking, okay, I'll fix this first and then I'll let you know. I've got it sorted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then our kids are so wise too, in that some of it they can lead us into what the next needs are, right? We don't have to necessarily have it all figured out, right?
Yeah. I think that's very true, that your children do lead you a lot more than you realize if you let them. And I suppose there's a fear in letting go as well, because that kind of goes against the norm that well, you're the parent and you should know everything and you should put in things into place.
And you're like, shit, I don't know, I've never done this before.
Exactly that. And you're kind of thinking, I don't want to be the adult today, I'm out of being a mum today, I'm also going to be a child.
Yes, exactly. Is there a way to check out,
yeah, exactly. So I think that's true, and that was very true with me and my son, because I think I felt initially, once we got the diagnosis, I thought, okay, we now know, so therefore we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I did do a lot of those things,
right.
And wow, I didn't give myself a break, and I didn't give my son a break, really. Now, when I look back on it,
right, yeah,
I kind of think a lot of the things that I now find so endearing and wonderful about my son, I used to think, gosh, that's different. Do I want that different?
Right.
I don't have any choice, that's him. And that's the same with all children. That's not just children who have a diagnosis.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really had to learn that. And I think from that made me have to look at myself a lot more, look at my own upbringing a lot more, and critique some things that it can be a bit uncomfortable doing that, when you think, okay, I see maybe why my family did that, but maybe that I wouldn't do that.
100%. And we're so, I don't know if it's a British thing or whatever, we so don't want to blame. And I realize it's not really blaming, it's figuring out, it's preparing for the next generation. It's our self-learning is our growth.
Evolving, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't expect to parent the same way as the Victorians do.
No, exactly.
We'd be horrified, But then we look at our parents, and sometimes it's really hard to say, I don't think they did that right.
Yeah.
But if we were able to ask our parents, they'd probably go, yeah, now I look at it, I didn't do that right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And I love that that's what parenting and motherhood has really done for me, which I had no clue that it would, was this evolving and this learning and knowing myself better.
Yeah.
And at times I remember thinking, God, can't the kids just pause a minute? Because I'm onto something here. I need to go deeper. I need to really figure this out. And then I can come back and parent. And of course, it doesn't work that way. But it is that, like you say, the letting go, the being aware, the sort of just looking at him or my two as they are.
Yeah.
Right? And then like you say, there's things that you just go, wow, how lovely. That's, that's okay. And even when it's not so nice, you go, well, that's also okay, because that's who they are.
Yeah. Somebody once said to me, it was funny, we'd gone on an overseas holiday and met some other people that we knew there, and we were talking, and this lady was saying that her children had been really noisy on the plane, and a few people were sort of giving glances and so on, and I said, oh yeah, we've had that as well, because that's one thing with a child with autism that other parents will recognize, is that your child with autism may not speak much or may not have the best ability in language. They may, but they also can be the noisiest child without having very much language. But my friend said to me, one thing is true though, you always think your child is noisier than everybody else thinks. You always think that everybody else is noticing your child, and they're not half the time. They may give you a cursory glance, but they're going about their business. They're looking after their children. They're doing their thing. And that was quite a learning point for me, because I kind of thought, yeah, and also who cares what they think half the time?
It's so true. It's
I
so
don't care what
true.
I
And we're
think
so
about them.
raised with worrying about what everybody, and this, the British stuff is being, be polite, don't draw attention to yourself, right? And then our kids put us right out that comfort zone because they're not leading in that way.
Yeah,
Things
no,
my son would say, I would just die. And I think, oh my God, they must think I'm, and it's sort of like, you can do that, right? There's ways that, you know, you can work around certain things, like for your own sanity. I'm not saying there's no, you know, things in there, but yeah, you're right. You're totally right that it's, and we do look, if there's a noise, you look. Doesn't mean that you're locking out of sort of judgment even, right? You're just going, oh, what's that?
It's natural. If you hear a noise, you will turn around and look anywhere. You just do. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's so good. You've kind of just gone through all my questions. Actually, let's touch on then the one about how we've sort of broached it, but let's go a bit deeper. How different is your parenting, or how similar is it to when you were a nanny? Other than that, you can't give them back at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. I don't know, you know, there are similarities, of course, but there are a lot of differences. And I think partly it's a kind of generational thing. And I look at my parents and I look at how my in-laws parented my husband, and even though they're the same generation, there's big differences there. And I try, if there was a certain, you know, parenting style that you would align yourself to, I would always try to put myself in the sort of therapeutic parenting camp before I even really knew what that was, because my son made me parent that way. Because I had to connect with him and I had to go to where he was to be his parent, because at that stage, and he's very different now, but at that early stage when his autism, if you like, was first becoming apparent, his world was a lot more interesting than where I wanted him to be. So he didn't feel any pressure to come and meet me in my world. He didn't, you know, there were no bribes, there was no, well, do you want to watch this later? Well, let's do it. There wasn't that. So therefore, if I wanted to connect with him, I had to be where he was. And that taught me a lot. And that taught me a lot in terms of my work that I'd done with fostering. I'm not doing that at the moment, but I hope to go back into that when I finish my dissertation, because through different experiences and different trauma and different things that different children have got going on, they're all at different places, and there is no one size fits all. We have all these charts of developmental this and developmental that, but they're just very surface, aren't they?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, the similarities, there are similarities because I care for my son, but it's very different now. And I think that, you know, my son has autism, and I've spoken about children who are fostered, who maybe have come from chaotic backgrounds or various things going on, but that approach is not just for that particular group of people, you know.
Right.
We all have things that have happened to us that have shaped us, that may be triggers, that, you know, I just think you have to be a little bit more therapeutic in life to help you empathize and understand what people are going through. And that could be anything. That could be anything. It doesn't have to be, you know, what I've mentioned.
That's what, wow, but where that's powerful is that your son taught you that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, when we were raised thinking that we're going to teach them, and the greatest lessons have come from little people around us, right? In that, and like you say, I had never thought of that the bribing and you know, times out or whatever you wanted to do wouldn't have worked anyway with him.
He doesn't have that social expectation, so those cues or things that you work for other children to maybe help shape what they're doing. It doesn't.
Yeah.
He knows.
You have no choice but to be in that moment with him.
Yeah,
and ideally that's as parenting, that's sort of the route we need to get to, that we are really just accepting them as they are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and it's helped me look at lots of things differently, and what it has helped me do, and sometimes this is uncomfortable, is look at myself differently, because nobody really enjoys self-analysis unless you're hearing good things.
Unless you go, oh yes, fuck that.
Exactly. When somebody thought, in a work setting or something, and they may say, oh, you like to finish a task. Yes, of course I do. And all those things. Shielding all these massive insecurities, and I think parenting showed me that I always thought I was not super confident, but I had a bit of confidence, but it's shown me that my confidence was a front in a way for lots of insecurities. I kind of made up for it. I thought, well, if I do this, nobody will look at that, so I'll do this instead.
Shiny light is over here, don't look over here.
Nobody look there, this is me. And I think, and it was really, being at university, the course that I did was really quite interesting in some ways, and well, lots of ways, but in ways where it made me reflect on myself a lot, and you had to as part of this course. And I learnt new things about myself, and I asked, for example, my siblings certain things, and your siblings are brutal, aren't they, sometimes? Even adults.
They're quite happy to point out your dark side.
Yeah, exactly. And they were saying things like, you were quite a difficult teenager, weren't you? And I was like, wasn't it? You gave mum and dad quite a hard time, did I? When you think, I don't remember any of that, but you start looking, you start thinking, if I was a parent, and that was quite a hard time. That was. And also different things that I've seen about how my parents parented me, that all of us really, that I have two elder sisters. I had an older brother, he passed away, and then my parents divorced, and I've got two younger sisters.
Right, yeah.
And that was a difficult time, and we were really close then, and we used to see each other a lot. We were at college, and
that's right.
It was a tricky time. At the time, I reacted as if it wasn't, and that's kind of telling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I can see as well, my mum, like your mum, was not British, came as an immigrant, I suppose. They had paved their own way in certain different things, and what I can now see, that in my family, my parents, probably more my mum, had maybe clear roles that she felt we fitted into. So I was kind of the academic working professional person. My sister Deborah was the caring person. Amanda was also kind of an academic, because I think that when my mum came to England, she came with a lot of insecurity, and didn't have very much money, had to send money back home for my brother, so lots of different things going on. And I fitted into that role for a long time. I was the academic, I was the professional. I waited quite a long time to have children because I didn't want to have that insecurity. And then what happens? You have insecurity all the time when you have children. There's no plan, there's no map. So yeah, it's interesting. You look at yourself differently, and you start looking at your parents' relationship and how that affects your parenting, and how you parent differently because of it.
100%. Yeah. It's like lots of awakenings and awarenesses that I don't know how you don't start to look at that stuff. I guess your wall is so thick that you're just like, I'm not going there, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a vulnerability in it, right? And there's a vulnerability in us realizing when we're messing up with the kids, with life, with partners, blah, 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 right? There's a vulnerability to be able to say, whoa, who was that nasty person just speaking? Can't have been me. And then like, wow, why did that trigger me so much? What is it about that?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
It's true. I think I've only just learned to do this, but to say, like you say, if something hasn't, you're not particularly proud of how you've acted, just kind of go back and say, look, I'm sorry I did that. But I did that because I felt this way, and it wasn't right, but I want you to know why. And it's hard because you're opening yourself. It's almost like kind of saying, you know, I've got this shield, I'm going to move it now, and it's up to you whether you wound me more or not.
Yeah.
And then you get back, don't you? And little by little, it moves a bit more, and it moves a bit more. And
I used to find to say, I could say sorry to my kids, but to say it to a person, it would choke me. I can't go, because I felt really defensive. And then you go, this is your partner, you know, and I want to be open and I want to live fully, right?
Yeah.
So you have to open that heart.
Yeah. I'm still learning. I think. Do you ever stop? I don't know. You probably never stop, do you? I don't think you ever stop. But it's interesting. I do now find when my friends may say, oh, you're very this or you're very that, I find it quite interesting now, whereas before I probably left it on a surface level. But I at the moment I'm not, because of COVID, but I started doing yoga recently, and at the end of the yoga class our teacher has a 10-minute meditation session. And it's so funny, my friend who I go with, she can clear her mind and fall asleep within seconds, and she's asleep snoring in the class. Me,
for her snoring, yeah.
I can't stop I can hardly stop my body moving. Great effort, but I cannot stop my mind. I can't stop I have to visualize spirals of color to try and stop myself thinking.
Okay.
And one time I kind of related to her all the thoughts that I'd had afterwards, and they'd gone from sort of making polenta and why I never liked polenta as a child, through to, you know, would I want an expensive car, or is it better to have a reliable car? You know, really
incredible. All within a second, right?
Yeah. So, you know, she used to wake up feeling really refreshed, and I'd be like, I need to have rest now, you know. But she pointed out to me, she said, yeah, but you do everything full on. You never let yourself ease into anything. She said, you know, you started going to the gym and you were going 5 times a week within the first 2 weeks, with personal trainers and doing double classes and doing, you know, and I think that's true. I never used to let myself, if it cleaning my house day, I cleaned top to bottom, couldn't stop. Even if it was 9 o'clock at night, I'd have to clean every room and do every little bit in it. And you know, and I think similar with parenting, you have to sometimes just let things go for another day.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I love that though. That is perfect about the yoga, because obviously teaching it and studying it, it still happens to me too, right? That it's easily. And sometimes I'm like, why am I sitting here pretending I'm meditating when all I'm thinking of is, you know, God, I'm so hungry. I wonder if anyone ate that last piece of pie.
That's normally my thought. Can I get out and eat something yet?
Exactly. Well, Cinzia, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this. This has been fantastic. And I relate to so much from having our training and our age, you know, at this time of life, like where you start, I think that we start to evolve more if we're open to it, because to get deeper, we want real relationships with people, right? And the surface stuff, I mean, I'm so impatient with that now that, yeah. So thank you so very much.
Welcome. You're more than welcome.